Hey there, New York City Guitar School, Emily here. If you have ever listened to a song that has vocal harmonies in it, you might have questions about what is actually happening with the vocals. It can sometimes be a little hard to actually pick out the specific parts because it's meant to blend together naturally to where our ear almost hears one single voice. Today I'm going to show you an example of a 3-part harmony using a song written by Dolly Parton and then arranged and re-recorded by the Wailin Jennies, using 3 vocalists, 3 voices that overlap and interweave to create this beautiful, gorgeous 3-part harmony a cappella version of The Light of a Clear Blue Morning. Let's head on over to Soundtrap, where I have recorded each individual part separately and then lined them up so that they mesh together and create a recreation of the original track. All right, so I'm going to take you on over to Soundtrap, which is an amazing recording platform if you're interested. The Light of a Clear Blue Morning. I'm going to go into our studio. All right, so here we are. You will see that we have 3 tracks. We have the melody, we have a lower harmony, and we have a higher harmony. So you want to think of the melody of a song as the part that most people, if they were singing along with the song, their ear would naturally pick up, that you would naturally follow. And that is the melody of a song. And we can do that with our voices. We can pick that out on a guitar, on a piano. And then a harmony, you want to think really common harmonies are usually a third or a fifth below the melody, or a third or a fifth above the melody. However, that is a general idea. Harmonies can move in and out and be all kinds of intervals in relation to the melody. But I labeled lower and higher because those parts, for the most part, remain in the area either lower than or higher than where the melody sits. So the melody will be right in the middle most of the time, but not always. So what I can do, I'll play you a little bit of this track all together, and then we'll separate them out to give you an idea of what's actually happening.
It's been a long, dark night, and I've been waiting for the morning. It's been a long, hard fight, and I can see a brand new day dawning. And I've been looking for the sunshine, 'cause I ain't seen it in so long. Everything's gonna work out just fine. Everything's gonna be alright. That's been all wrong.
So that is a snippet. Then it gets into the real chorus of the song. But just to give you an idea of what's happening in the beginning, if I mute everything else, my melody is this top blue track, just singing the basic lyrics.
It's been a long, dark night.
Right? So that's just the melody. Now, what we have next is this lower ooh.
It's been a long, dark night.
All we have left is technically the higher melody. However, take a look. I'll mute the melody. These 2 tracks actually start in unison, and then they're going to move in the next section. So that is our unison. And here they will break apart. So you can hear. So our oohs are harmonizing together. And then we have our melody that we just add right on top.
I can see a brand new day dawning.
So we have our melody that's sort of holding down the fort, laying our foundation. And if I mute the melody, you'll notice the oohs tend to move slightly. So what is really creating the harmony are the oohs. Harmonies, you want to think that they are creating different relationships with our pitches in order to make sounds dissonant, in order to make them sound really pleasing and harmonic. They're typically always moving in order to form new relationships. And the more vocal parts you have, the more options and combinations you have to make these very different sounds. Now, moving forward to some of the moments in the song where the lower and higher harmonies aren't just singing oohs, but they're actually singing lyrics.
I ain't seen it in so long.
So that sounds complicated. Here's what's happening if I mute the other tracks. Here's our melody.
I ain't seen it in so long.
So that's pretty high. Here's our lower harmony.
So long.
Here is our higher harmony.
So long.
So that is an instance where even though our higher harmony is labeled higher, the melody is actually going higher, but the higher harmony is higher in relation to the lower harmony. So here's the lower and higher harmonies together.
So long.
And here is the melody back on top.
I ain't seen it in so long. Everything's gonna work out just fine.
Very similar moment happening there. Here's our melody.
Everything's gonna work out just fine.
Just fine. Here's our lower.
Just fine.
Just fine. And here's our higher.
Just fine.
Just fine. Now building those.
Just fine.
And finally bringing the melody back in.
Go just fine.
And there we have it. We're just building the same melody, the same exact interval of pitches, but in different spots in our range. We have a higher, we have a mid, we have a lower, and then they all morph together, moving at the same exact time, which is different from the beginning when we had oohs that were sort of moving at different times underneath a melody. This is more of a direct harmony happening all at once. There's this really cool moment at the end of the song that I love, where basically it's done in a round. Now you want to think of a round as one vocalist starts the melody, and at a certain point, another vocalist starts the same melody, but the first vocalist is already moving on. And then at another point, the same point that the second vocalist started their melody, a third vocalist starts the same melody, and then they all keep moving, and then it just keeps overlapping, and you can go on and on and on forever and ever. A really great example of this is The Chain by Ingrid Michaelson. At the end, it goes on for a while of just vocalists over and over singing the same exact melody. This is a variation on that. The vocalists don't sing the same exact melody. They're actually singing different parts. So here's what's happening. I'll play you this little ending.
'Cause I can see the light, I can see the light of the morning, I can see the light of a brand new day, the light of a brand new day, I can see the light, everything's gonna be alright, it's gonna be okay, everything's gonna be alright, it's gonna be okay.
All right, so there's a lot going on. Let's demystify this. So here is our melody for that part that is in the round. I'll mute the other tracks.
'Cause I can see the light of a brand new morning. I can see the light of a brand new day.
So that is pretty much the chorus. That's the exact melody from the chorus. So the melody part is singing that over and over. Here's what the lower technically harmony is doing, or voice 2 in this instance. So melody goes, and then
I can see the light of the morning.
melody.
I can see the light of a brand new day.
So voice 2 starts a few beats after voice 1 begins. Voice 2 is singing very similar lyrics, but it almost feels like it's in the round. I'll play these together. Listen for the I can see. That sort of is what's happening. That repetitive sound is happening actually in the round with these two voices. So here it is.
'Cause I can see the light of the morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see.
It keeps going. So those two parts are sort of in conjunction with each other, with part 2 starting the round later. Let's see what voice 3 is doing. This one is quite different. So voice 1 goes, voice 2 goes, voice 3.
I can see the light.
Voice 1, voice 2.
I can see the light. I can see the light.
So each part is sort of doing their own part over and over, very repetitive. But how it works in conjunction with voice 1 and then voice 2 tends to change depending on where each voice is in their specific sequence. So voice 3 starts the latest, so it has the shortest little section, basically repeating the same words. I can see the light. And how it actually ends up working is voice 3 ends up harmonizing with what voice 2 is doing. Let's take a look.
I can see the light of the morning. I can see the light of a brand new day.
So voice 3 has the simplest part. It is just sort of harmonizing with what voice 2 is doing, which is delayed from voice 1. But at certain points, they're all harmonizing together. So here it all is once more.
I can see the light of the morning. I can see the brand new day. I can see.
So a lot of people ask, how can I pick out specific harmonies? I can't really hear them. It is tricky and it takes some time and it depends on what form of music you're working with, but take a second. I'll play it one more time and see if you can pick out each part now that you have it visually in front of you. So for instance, when we see those sound waves jumping up and down, we know that, okay, voice 1 is beginning. See if you can pick one part, voice 1, voice 2, or voice 3, to pick out with your ear and see if you can block out the noise of the other 2 vocal parts, the ones that you did not choose, and see if you can only hear the one you chose. Here we go.
'Cause I can see the light of the morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light.
So there you go. That is the round. And once you are exposed to what exactly each voice part is doing, it's almost impossible to not hear it anymore. You can really pick them out the more and more you listen to it, and the more and more you can kind of hear what's going on. And I will say this is much easier to do if you're watching a live performance, whether that's a video or in person, to where you can kind of watch the singer's mouth to actually see what words they're saying and match it with what you're hearing. And then the song finishes with another 3-part harmony, and then a unison, and then a harmony again. See if you can hear where the unison comes in.
Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay.
Cool. So the unison happens on everything's gonna be alright.
Everything's gonna be alright.
And then just to play you each specific part one last time.
It's gonna be okay.
That is our melody. This is actually our lower. I think I recorded it in the higher section, but this is the lowest one.
It's gonna be okay.
Quite low. And last but not least, the higher harmony technically.
It's gonna be okay.
So then they all join together once more.
It's gonna be okay.
And here's one last exercise. I'll start with the melody and slowly add each part in. So here is the melody.
It's gonna be okay.
Here's that technically higher harmony.
It's gonna be okay.
And last but not least, the lowest.
It's gonna be okay.
So there is so much more that we could talk about with harmonies, but I just wanted to highlight today an actual visual for you to be able to see what's really happening and be able to hear each specific part at specific moments, because sometimes in harmonization, you're all singing unison. Sometimes you're singing in unison with one other part. Sometimes you're harmonizing with one voice and then there's a melody floating above. It really differs and changes. There's really no black and white rule. I hope you enjoyed getting to just sort of see a brief little taste of what's happening in Soundtrap with an a cappella 3-part harmony song. As I mentioned, there's so much more we could cover, so if you have questions about harmonization, definitely drop those in the comments below and I would love to help you out and discuss more. Thank you so much for joining me. See you around.
'Cause I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see